Arkansas also was a great story for a while. They were ranked in the top 10, but then, of course, they trailed off towards the end of the year. They finished 4-4 in the SEC and 9-4 overall last season.
Yeah, 8 regular season wins for them, 4 conference wins, which we just had a little back and forth about there. Win total of 7. Now, this is where half wins are going to matter in a situation where I would pay more for an under on one. So there are 7.5 unders that are out there. You got to pay a little bit. I think what is my kind of consensus? Yeah, like 145, 150 on the under. And I do think that's worth something on 7.5. I bet Arkansas under 7.5 at those prices. Now, people will be like, what's a half win worth? And that's a question that I think a lot of people get asked all the time. I've seen a lot of people answer it, and they're not wrong. But I think for everyone, it's going to be different. I think for a bookmaker, it's probably a really straightforward question. Like, how much juice do you need on one side before you think about like moving your number, basically, right? I think all bookmakers probably have like kind of a tried and true axiom that they use in those situations at their discretion. So for them, for the bookmaker, it's probably really easy to answer. For the bettor or the handicapper, it's going to be different for every team. So here's the perfect example. I was going to save this for Vanderbilt, but it actually makes perfect sense. Half wins for Vanderbilt should be worth $1 million. I mean, they should be worth so much compared to other teams. Vanderbilt is awful. Arkansas is not awful, so we'll talk about them in a second. But Vanderbilt is so bad, and their win total is 2.5, and they realistically have like 4 games maybe that they can win this year. So if I take and for them likely losses is like, well, you're plus 42, so I think you're going to lose. I think I feel pretty good about that. If I take away all of the likely losses, and I mean like the really, really likely losses. Let me flip over to Vanderbilt just to make sure I got that right. I have them as a more than 21-point underdog in 7 of their 12 games, and I have them more than 14 in 2 more. So we're talking about 3 games, and the win total is 2.5. What if I offered you 3? How much would you pay for the under? You're basically playing a 3-game season. Like you can win as a 35-point underdog. It's just going to happen like 1% of the time. But for this exercise, I really think college football win totals become pretty simplistic when you remove the really likely wins and losses and basically view that what's remaining as the season. That's the season. Like, what do you think of that part of the schedule? That's 7 games, that 8 games. For most teams, it's 6, 7, or 8 games. For Vanderbilt, it's 2, basically, because I think they'll beat Elon in week 2. It's literally Hawaii and Northern Illinois. And how do you feel about both of those? Okay, what would you pay for a half win on a 3-game schedule? I don't know, $3? Like a lot? It's like, I would bet under 3 for a lot of money with Vanderbilt. You can't find it. It doesn't exist. Like under 2.5 is minus 120. But that's a situation where it's like, well, what's a half win worth? 40 cents. To who? Not to Vanderbilt. To Vanderbilt's worth like $100. I mean, you couldn't lay enough money on under 3. So that's what I mean, where like you can't answer the question, what's a half win worth, without thinking a little more deeply about the question and understanding that some teams are more volatile than others. Some teams have way more toss-up games than others, and that will kind of expand or decrease actually the price of what the half win should be worth, because they're just all outcomes are possible. With Vanderbilt's not winning 6 games this year. Sorry, not happening. It's like a 0.01% chance of that happening. So like the half wins to them should be worth a ton. Their range of possible outcomes is incredibly small. Louisville plays like 12 toss-up games. Their range of outcomes is incredibly big. You shouldn't pay anything for a half win for Louisville. It's worth nothing.